Ms. Goodling, I'd like to ask you about some of the criteria that you and others in the Justice Department used to put people on the list to be fired. I think you testified with respect to Mr. Iglesias that there was a discussion about the rationale for his being on the list. Someone mentioned he was an absentee landlord. Someone else mentioned that there was an improper delegation of authority. I think the documents revealed that those justifications were not learned until after he was placed on the list, but I'll cover that later. Let me assume for the moment that that's a legitimate consideration. If a U.S. attorney delegated too much of his authority to the first assistant U.S. attorney, that might be a reason to place him on a list to be fired. Is that right?
It could be.
So if he delegated some of the most important decisions in the office, decisions over hiring key people like the head of a corruption section, and delegated that away, that might be a reason to put him on the list.
I think that you would look at the totality of circumstances in every case, but that might be a factor you would consider.
And if you remove someone who was doing a corruption investigation in his office without good reason, in a way that interfered with the investigation, that would be a good reason to put him on a list to be fired.
You know, I don't know the specifics of what you may be referring to.
No, but I'm just asking you generally. That would be a good reason to be put on a list.
I don't know.
The U.S. attorney sets the tone in the office. If the U.S. attorney's mismanagement of his office results in low morale, and that morale affects the quality of the work done by the office and the reputation of the office, that might be a legitimate reason to put him on the list to be fired, right?
In some cases, morale can be improved. In some cases, you know, you do need to make a change. But again, it's going to be the totality of the circumstances.
If Mr. Iglesias or any other U.S. attorney came before Congress and testified incompletely or inconsistently or lacked credibility, that might be a reason to put him on a list to be fired, right? Certainly, if someone testifies incompletely or inconsistently or not fully truthfully, that'd be a reason to be fired, wouldn't it?
I mean, I think you'd have to look at the circumstance. It's not easy to sit here and answer questions and try to give you complete answers. But, you know, I don't know. It may be, I mean, obviously it would be something that you would have to look at.
If, in the case of Mr. Iglesias or any other U.S. attorney, the senators from that state, even senators of the same party, expressed a loss of confidence, as the Attorney General testified, that might be a reason to place them on the list to be fired.
I think that could be a factor you would consider in some cases.
And if a U.S. attorney or any other key Justice Department official demonstrated an excess of loyalty, loyalty more to the person that hired them or responsible for their job than to uphold the laws and faithfully execute their office, that might be a reason to put them on the list to be fired, right?
I'm not sure that I understand.
Well, you said the totality. Let's add up the totality of circumstances. You have a U.S. attorney or a top law enforcement official in the department who improperly delegates his authority, whose actions cause morale in the office to plummet, whose testimony before Congress is incomplete and inconsistent, who's lost the confidence of senators, even of his own party, and who creates the impression that his loyalty takes a higher priority than his duty to uphold the laws and the Constitution. The totality of those circumstances would certainly warrant a position on the list to be fired, wouldn't it?
That wouldn't be my call to make.
By that standard, Ms. Goodling, shouldn't someone have placed the Attorney General himself on the list to be fired?
That wouldn't be my decision to make.
That would be the President's decision, correct?
Yes.
But morale has plummeted in the department, hasn't it?
You know, I've left the department and I'm not in a position to be able to answer the question.
The Attorney General's testimony was inconsistent with his prior statement that he was not at any meeting or involved in any discussion of the firings. Wasn't that inconsistent?
I do think there were some inconsistencies.
Senators of the Attorney General's own party have lost confidence in his performance, haven't they?
I've seen newspaper accounts, but I have no firsthand knowledge other than that.
The Attorney General has certainly created a perception, if not a reality, that his loyalty to the President is a higher priority to him than faithfully executing the duties of his office. Wouldn't you agree?
I don't know what my perception of that would be. I worked for him, and I thought he was a good man, and I thought he tried hard. I just don't know that I can express an opinion on that. I don't frankly know what I think about the topic.
I have no further questions.
Time of the gentleman is expired.